Hi, good evening. Welcome to the Barmy Army podcast. It's our birthday. Not quite sure there's a lot to celebrate over the last 12 months, though. Certainly not in the wider world. This evening, I'm joined by a very shiny Shane. How are you today, Shane?
Enlightened.
I feel in the presence of a higher spirit. Jake, thank you for joining us. How are you tonight?
I'm okay. Happy to be here on the special first birthday show.
The first birthday show. I think when we were planning this, we thought, oh, birthday show. And then it dawned on me that it would also depend on how well we'd done in the previous game. And also the fact that celebrating a year of lockdowns and still in this crazy world doesn't really feel a lot to celebrate. However, we will celebrate the fact that we're all still here. And it's fantastic that that's happening. So let's all keep safe. Let's all keep well. Mark, good evening. John, very good evening. A fair bit to get through tonight. We're going to very briefly touch on the game last Friday. Very briefly. We're going to look ahead to the game on Saturday at the wonderful hour of 11:30. And two other small pieces of business around that. One, if there's anything left over from the discussion about United playing at Old Trafford, then also the announcement of the new TV deal this week. Also, because I know Shane was on it this morning, renewals of season tickets. Happy things, positive things. Right, let's get the rubbish out of the way. Last Friday, a really disappointing result. An even more disappointing performance, I think. More than likely, we're expecting fourth now. If that's the case, Shane, sum up the season. I know we've still got 5 games to go, but
Do you know what I mean? These discussions obviously are happening because of the results that have happened. So at the start of the season, if you'd have asked me personally, it would have been, do you know what? I'd still take fourth. I think, to do it over the course of a whole season and almost bridge the gap between us and the traditional top three, I don't think can be underestimated or seen as a negative. We were fourth last season through what was pretty much half of a season. So to do it over a full season means we're stabilising ourselves at that upper end of the table. You have to account, though, the fact that we went on this glorious unbeaten run, top the table at Christmas and going into the new year, and then suddenly drop like an anchor. When you account for that, it is disappointing because we looked set to go top three, and then we've played those other three teams, and I don't want to say bottled it, but the performances maybe that's the right description.
yeah. Good evening, Fiona. John Fry is still convinced that third is ours. Jake, yeah, your thoughts if fourth is where we end up?
Yeah, I think the first half of the season really put an illusion in our minds, and it's frustrating the way everything fell. Just because you go back to the start of the season, and if you would have asked me then where we're going to finish, I'd say fourth, and it'll be great to just close the gap on Arsenal because it was 13, 14 points at the time the season ended last season. So yeah, it would have been nice just to have that, but then we just got our hopes up. We were top. We were on this amazing run of form. People started dreaming. I was one of them, I admit. And then suddenly now they come down of it being a bit hit and miss. Now, when you look at it the way it's been, it is going to seem painful. But you look at the season as a whole, that's where we are, and we still could hold on to third. John's right. Of course, obviously not in our hands now, but it's on paper, it looks a lot worse on paper than it is in reality. Because on paper, it's all Man United from first to fourth. In reality, it's Man United, fantastic first half of the season, then it was a bit up and down. But it's just the way it's all fell, really. I mean, we're always going to lose a few matches this season. It just happened in such a short space of time.
Yeah, and some of those issues that we talked about in earlier podcasts, having to play the big three away from home, would that come back to bite us? Certainly injuries. That Reading game, I know we talked about it on the fan cams on Friday night. Casey also talked about it. That seems to be a bit of an issue. Seems to really be where we've let ourselves down. Yeah, and I think the whole at the beginning of the season we wanted to be closer to Arsenal, potentially the only thing separating us from them will be goal difference, which in itself is an achievement, but a frustrating one all the same. John Fry, Mark, I'll come back to your comment, John, just going through in order. Mark says, in the grand scheme of things, 4th is okay. He still has hidden hopes of 3rd, and John Fry's confident we can get 3rd. Good evening, Sang. Mark then goes on to say, there's a quote this week, Casey said that we're 1 year ahead of where we should be, or where she thinks we should be. And good evening to John Neville. I don't want to gloss over the result, and I don't want to gloss over the performance. But in some ways, we've now got 5 games left to really show what we're about. And in many ways, we'll find out more, I think, about the team in these next 5 games. So, you know what? Let's bring on the next game. Saturday morning. Because it's men's international weekend, or break, sorry, which Jake, this is gold for you, isn't it? You're a big fan of internationals.
Don't get me started.
I'm only saying. I'm only saying.
Just saying that if we talk about internationals, then the rest of the podcast will just be just that. Come on, we've got a topic to stick to.
Good afternoon, Karen. Because there's no men's football, what they've decided to do, and I know that they tried this in previous seasons, is basically make women's football a feature, and all of the Super League games are staggered throughout the day, over the weekend, so that you effectively, if you wanted to sit on the FA player for the weekend, you could, if I'm not mistaken, watch every single game or through different broadcast channels. So United have had the lovely 11:30 kickoff given to them. And that will be an absolute joy, I'm sure, I know we get some American viewers, even those on the East Coast, it's still going to be a ridiculously early start for you. West Ham, on paper, Jake, 3 points?
Absolutely, yeah.
No shadow of a doubt, no concerns. Reading, I'll remind you about Reading.
You say on paper, don't you? And then obviously West Ham are the worst team in the league, again, on paper. But when we went to their place, it wasn't plain sailing. We just outscored them. They do have goal threats. We do need to be careful. We just need to score goals and we should be fine. But as long as we do actually score.
Okay, on the subject of goals, Sam makes a really good point. If you look at our goals scored and conceded, we look closer to 4th and 3rd. And I certainly think that the one thing that will really stand against us this season is our is just how unclinical, that's not a word, but we've just not been clinical enough. And certainly if it is the difference between us and getting Champions League is goal difference, then certainly. Just going back a point, Mark says if you could pick the point where the season went, it's the Reading game. John Fry says we must win. Absolutely. Shane, thoughts about West Ham?
Yeah, like you said, on paper, should be a win, but we've not played at Old Trafford before, and we don't know how that's going to affect the team. Not saying it's going to affect them negatively at all. I mean, the club have got people sending their support messages that they're going to put up in the tunnel for the players, so there's definitely going to be a bit of an occasion about it for them. But my only hope is that when it comes to the whistle blown and game started, that's all it is. It's just for the game and focus on getting the 3 points. West Ham have proved against us that they're not going to necessarily be pushovers in the past. I mean, I know we don't like to talk about it, but last season, that away game, we thought it was in the bag and turned on its head inside 7 minutes. So there's always that. As much as we don't like to remember it, you can't escape it. And as Jake said, earlier this season, there was times where we really looked in control in that game, and we got out. We went ahead and looked comfortable, and then they just edge a goal back, and we suddenly look a bit iffy. And at the end of the day, we managed to just outscore them. So, I'd hope that we'll put a bit of a commanding performance in. I hope we'll control the game and almost use Old Trafford being a slightly bigger pitch as well to our advantage. There's certainly things we can make use of with that, particularly on the wings, I think. And yeah, hopefully we can just come and score goals. Get loads of goals, please.
Yeah, goals seem to be definitely something. Mark says not just 3 points, we need a performance. He's expecting changes, maybe 4 or 5. John Fry says they haven't got Rachel Daly playing. She was a pain to us earlier in the season, definitely. Sang says, if the love of all that's holy, play Hayley Ladd. I think we'd all agree after Friday night. John Neville, much as we've said, it always seems to come back to Reading. Yeah, that might just be the one team that will consistently be our bogey team. We are looking at Old Trafford as being a motivation, as being something that will fire the girls up. Are we forgetting the fact that it could also fire up West Ham? Shane?
Yeah, I mean, look, West Ham have, I suppose, from their point of view, been fortunate enough to play in some of the bigger stadiums already. Certainly from their men's team perspective, they've played at the London Stadium, if I'm not mistaken. Even to a degree, their current home ground, that's a bigger ground than what they had at least. So, I appreciate they haven't been.
I don't think it's bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that they haven't had fans there, or I think they did for one game as a test event, but so that's always a consideration as well. The lack of fans, or even when fans are allowed in, how that impacts a game. But yeah, Old Trafford's an iconic stadium. More so for United supporters, but it's an iconic stadium nonetheless, whoever you are to a degree. So they might look at it as well, come on, this is their turf. Let's go and stick it to them. And you do get that. We say often as United fans, it's other teams, we say it's their cup final. So maybe they'll treat it that way.
Absolutely. And I know, Jake, you and I have got reservations about the team playing at Old Trafford. And I know it was discussed last week, certainly Mark, when he was hosting. And not having fans in makes the decision for me even more bizarre, but it also makes more sense. And actually, for me, it kind of ties up with the news that this week, John Fry says it here, an empty Old Trafford is eerie. Absolutely. And actually, the only time you ever normally would know that or sample that, I suppose, is if anyone has ever done the tour of Old Trafford. And it's very strange. You sit there, you sit in a part of the ground, and it might be you and there might be another tour party over on the other side of the ground. And it just feels strange. It's so different from a normal match day. Sang's positive. We're miles better than West Ham. Even with the injuries, we should thump them. Old Trafford should add fire to your team. Should. John, yeah, you've done the tour, so you know that it can be slightly eerie. The decision to have the game staggered, the decision to have United at Old Trafford, kind of in a way, I'm going to segue smoothly into the news this week that finally, after much rumour, they've announced the new TV deal. Now, the upshot of that TV deal is that Sky and BBC will take the games. BT won't be showing anything. Sky will be showing games at bizarre times. BBC will be showing them on mainstream channels, if I'm not mistaken. This is, for me, the next stage of raising the game, raising the profile. One thing that really disappointed me was everybody who's ever been involved in the game was positive the morning it was announced. Everybody. Former professionals, people who were on boards of clubs, positive. The only people that weren't positive were some fans. Because as far as they could see it, what's going to happen with the games I go to? Jake, is this something that needed to happen, regardless of what fans of certain clubs are saying?
100%. 100%. I mean, it's just, we talk about the game at Old Trafford and me and you being quite negative about it, but can only be positive about this TV deal. I was reading it when it came out this week, and I was smiling. I really was. I was happy because obviously, getting the games on Sky can do wonders for the women's game. I think that's exactly who we needed to take over. That's now 3 out of the 6 games every weekend or round, or however you want to see it, on live TV in one form or another. So it's more games than ever on TV for the women's football in general. It will just expose to a bigger audience. Maybe that'll have an impact on referees for the future, on crowd numbers when crowds go back in and all the rest of it. But yeah, I can only see it as a positive thing, and obviously the money that's coming out of it as well, that's being offered to teams. And there's got to be some going to the Championship as well, if I'm right. I've heard something about that, so it's massive in terms of money. Women's football has never seen anything like this before. It's becoming a lot more mainstream. It's going to be pushed into the face of people who might not necessarily go out of their way to watch women's football. So it is positive. We're going to see higher attendances. We're going to see more interaction, I think. And yeah, I can't think of any negatives. So great news.
Absolutely. John Fry says it had to be done. Mark says, if we're talking about negatives, if we can go to the games, he doesn't care. Even if he's got to get up at 5 o'clock for an away game, I'll remind him of that when he's got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Fiona, post-match analysis, something that's currently missing. Definitely positive news. There will be growing pains. Yeah, absolutely. Good point, Sang. Karen, the TV deal is better than what the NWSL is getting in the US. Yeah, this will make the WSL the most watched women's league in the world. Now, and I'm sorry, just jumping on Mark's before I come to you, Shane. Brilliant news. If Sky can do half of what they've done for the Premier League for the WSL, then that's a good thing. Yes, Sang's just reminding us, Mark, 5 a.m. with the sombrero and your donkey. For anybody that might remember that one. That was throwing me. One of the criticisms around this deal, Shane, was the kickoff times. And I'm putting this out there that 5 o'clock, sombrero and a donkey, bring it on, he says. Does that show? And you know what? I'm coming at this as Man United fan. Only been interested in women's football since United have been around. Yeah, I'll own that. The reaction of some to what we're going to do about kickoff times, it's really, really awkward. Was that a sign of, we want the game staying as it always was? We want it staying small. The game cannot grow, I don't believe, unless they go to a similar situation like the WSL, like the Premier League, sorry. When people say, no, let's all have 2 o'clocks on a Sunday, can the game grow and stay like that?
I don't think you can ever say no flat out, because it's grown to the extent it has currently in that format. So there's proof of growth. But what you have to consider is, when does that growth peak, and when does it then become a detriment to growing further? And if you look at it on the grand scheme of things with this TV deal, a 12:30 kickoff on a Sunday isn't abnormal anyway. We kick off at 12 most Sundays. We're usually grateful when BBC pick our game on a Sunday, because they push it back by half an hour. So in some respects that'll help, but it's not abnormal. The ones what I think got people's backs up are these 11:30 Saturday mornings, even the 6:30 Sunday evenings and 6:30 Friday evenings, because they're not traditional slots. Yeah. But then again, we just played Arsenal at 6:30 on a Friday night. Appreciate it was behind closed doors, but if we could go to that, we'd have got there. We'd have made damn sure we were there. And for your match-going fans, I think the biggest worry is probably when you get clashes with your men's team, which does happen now, has happened for a while, has been something that we've been vocal about, and as have other fans of other teams. It's always a talking point, is when you get women's games that clash either directly or overlap with the men's game, or there's a home and away. You've got to choose between one. You can't do both. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach the picks. We know with the men's, picks are done at least a month in advance. I'd assume with the women, sometimes you get on less than 2 weeks' notice for a kick-off change, and all of a sudden, all your plans are just completely thrown out the window. We look back to our FA Cup game against Brighton, and that wasn't even a TV pick back then. That was just, we're expecting an afternoon kick-off, and all of a sudden it was midday, and everyone's leaving at the crack of dawn. So
Mark suspects
I think it's going to be a trial and error.
Yeah, Mark suspects the first half 11 we get will be Brighton away.
Of course it will. Of course it will.
John Neville, does it mean VAR? No, because ref, I don't know if you're around, if you're awake. You can just explain to us why we won't, what we need to have VAR happen. But yeah, there is a reason why not. But yes, the added scrutiny, I think the message might have scrolled up. The added scrutiny will mean that certain refereeing errors will be heightened. So if they manage to schedule so teams, men and women's don't clash, let's accept the abnormal kickoff times until we have packs. Absolutely. I think they have said they're going to try and not clash, or at least have them on the same day, but with a gap in between. Fiona, some of the times will be difficult for away fans. Yeah, absolutely. There's not that many away travelling fans in the WSL. There's a point. Yeah, and Mark says, can't get Ian. He's in the cupboard recharging, the Ian bot. Thank you for that. Look, I'm old enough to remember when men's football was 3 o'clock on a Saturday, regardless. That now is alien. Take out this season, where you've got every game staggered so that they can televise everything. The days of United kicking off at 3 o'clock at Old Trafford, I can't tell you that it's happened more than 3 or 4 times in each of the last few seasons, with the exception of this season. That's become accepted. Staggered kickoffs, random kickoff times. If we're playing City, if we're playing Liverpool, if we're any of those games, they're not going to be a Saturday 3 o'clock. They're going to be a TV game. And if there's European games, if either team's involved in Europe, either side of it, that will influence whether they're late Saturday, late Sunday. They've even been Mondays. That, you accept that. For me, women's football just needs to get on board with that, because that's the next stage. Shane, you were saying about how the game's done okay, but it feels like it's reached its ceiling. It feels like this is where it is. This is as far as it can go. And to push on, it needs something else. And I say, bring on what Sky have got. I know BBC are still covering, but anybody who was watching BT last Friday night, you may have noticed that according to BT, Lotte Rockquist was on the bench for us. That's the kind of thing you never get in men's football in the Premier League. You would never watch United's games, men's games, and have the wrong name on a substitutes list. So, something? I'm all over it. I'm for it. Let's bring this Sky deal on. Any reservations for you, Jake?
No, I really can't see any issues. When we talk about the irregular kickoff times, but that's just something we're going to have to get used to, because it's new, it's different. This is how the TV companies want to do it. This is how Sky are doing it, so that they don't clash with the men's side, so they can show both the Premier League, the WSL, and all the other competitions that they have. Because ideally, let's put it into perspective now. If you have a WSL game on at the same time as any Premier League game, the WSL game is not going to get any viewers. Let's be frank about it. Even if it's a very dead rubber Premier League game, it's natural that fans are going to go and watch that. So they're trying their best to both grow the women's game and also boost viewership to as much as it can be. Like, even if someone's flicking through the channels on a Sunday morning or Friday evening or whenever the games are, and they come across it, it could have something. It could really boost viewership, boost attendance. I know the point's been made already about away fans. How I think Fiona said, there isn't hardly any travel up to LSV and other grounds. Well, surely having them on at these abnormal times maximises his chance of someone coming across and thinking, I'll support the women's team, I'll go to the next game. It's only a positive for me. And BT, yeah, we spoke about them. They've done a good job for the women's game. They have. But I feel like it's now outgrown them, outgrown their coverage, that sounds very disrespectful, but BT only have a certain amount of knowledge, it feels like, and a certain amount of commitment. If the FA Cup's on, they're not interested in WSL, the men's FA Cup, that is. And I think that's the main thing now. You've got BBC and Sky now committing, saying we are showing this many games, and that's that. So I think that's great. I think it's where it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you make a really good point. It's almost outgrown BT. During the Chelsea game against Everton, they actually announced that the Chelsea keeper had saved a penalty that Chelsea took. So completely fluffing up names. Yeah, John Neville says he thought Losher had come back and he'd missed the news. John Fry, the only problem is the lower teams not getting enough funding. Now, if I'm not mistaken, at championship level, the money that they will be getting is enough to fund them for a year per season. So, yes, I know there's a disparity between Championship, Super League and the rest, but it is helping. It's not a huge amount of money. And in the context of football, it's really not a lot of money. But in the context of women's football, it is massive. Mark makes a point. TV deal, it might bring in the big names as the early Sky deal did in the 90s. And that's win-win. When you remember, well, maybe you guys don't, but when the Premier League was formed back in the 90s, the huge influx of money from Sky, we had players coming over here. I think Alan Sugar coined the term Carlos Kickerball to describe the fact that any old foreigner was coming over and playing here. And yet Jurgen Klinsmann came over for the Spurs team that he was chairman of at the time. So a massive name in the context of world football. And yes, we've been slightly spoilt this year because some of the biggest names have come over. We've got a couple of them playing for us. Maybe that's not going to just be because of a different situation. Maybe that's going to be through choice. And as fans, why wouldn't we? Getting off my soapbox at the moment. Sang, totally agree with Jake. We suffer, but let's have the ladies playing on national TV, get the popularity up. Then we can ask for better times and such. Absolutely. Sang comes back and says it's small, the money that's going to the lower league clubs, better than what they have now. Look at how the Premier League took off when Sky started showing most of the games. Yeah, absolutely. Sky bring with them a professionalism that I think at times has been lacking on the BBC and on BT. Sang, I assume that's the players that came in the 90s. At the time, Eric wasn't one of the world stars. He was having a trial at Sheffield Wednesday initially. But any excuse to get Eric Cantona's name on the podcast works for me. Yeah, John, the teams below championship level, there is a disparity in the funding there. And hey, they've been sold out in the last week or two because they've been told, play your FA Cup games, but no, your season's over. That's an FA issue. That's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother time. But I think as United fans, because we are used to kickoff times being all over the place, because Sang, absolutely, magnificent player and collar, who can complain, wore a collar upturned better than the referee did on Friday night.
I was waiting for that.
Won't let you down. Won't let you down on that. And Eric Cantona certainly has a very, very special place in my heart. So any excuse for that one. As United fans, we're used to random kickoff times. We're used to the fact that Casey wants 12 o'clock when every other team seems to go for 2 or 3. It's football. I feel we accept it better. So actually, 11:30, and I am aware that the suggestion is that there will be a locality issue. So they won't necessarily, as much as Mark said, us against Brighton, not at 11:30. A 11:30 is likely to be City, maybe not. Everton. Maybe even a Midlands team, if they can get a pitch that's acceptable. Back to Damson Park this weekend, aren't they? Or Birmingham. The podcast about the FA will be filled with foul language. Smart. I like that one. Well done. And on the subjects for fans, again, this morning it was announced that season ticket renewals have been, certainly the prices have been frozen. Are we now at that point of, yeah, actually John Neville makes the point, if Wally Hall Park is still standing? I'm not going to say anything about Everton to you, Jake. Don't worry. I'm not going to say, yeah. Actually, Sam, do you think any game between us and Everton will start by 11 o'clock? No, it'll be scheduled for the week before, and then it'll start the following week. Or that could be the revised fixture for it. I've got, yeah, season ticket renewals. Suggestion is that basically they're just going to roll over everybody. They're expecting people to just renew. It feels for me too soon for the TV deal to make a difference. But question to both of you. Jake, are you going to be renewing?
Absolutely.
Okay. Shane?
Of course.
Just checking, because we also had communication from the men's side of things, and there is a suggestion that some fans of some season ticket holders at from the men's team won't be renewing. A couple of reasons. One, because of financial reasons. Another, some people just aren't ready to get back into games. So I think I'm going to games on my own then. So that'll be fun. Oh, Shane,
That's a lie.
We can have a repeat of that West Ham celebration maybe at some point. Yeah, missed out on that one, Mark. If this TV deal is too soon to get new fans in, are you still expecting us to have one of the bigger crowds game by game, Shane?
It's an interesting point, and I mean we're still at that stage where there's a suggestion that capacity still might be restricted. If you go by the communication, or that they're at least putting plans in place to deal with that if it becomes an eventuality. That said, maybe, yeah, it's difficult. I think as a minimum, I'd probably expect us to be matching the earlier parts of last season. I don't think we're going to get, your 2,500, 3,000, something like that. Of course, portion of that's going to be away fans as well. But I'd like to think that everyone's suffered enough without being able to go to games that we're all itching to get back as soon as we can. So, any opportunity to get back there, will be taken. I guess you've got to consider if there's anyone travelling further afield. Naming no names, but how travel impacts that. We know there's a few of us that do come. We're not local, but so that might have an impact maybe. But the core of the fan base, the majority will be, within what you call a reasonable distance to Lee, at least for our home games. So yeah, I mean, look, we might not hit last season's average, which I think was just over 2,000, but if we can get above 1,500, I think, given the circumstance, that'd be good. And then you can build up from that in terms of getting new fans in, new season ticket holders off the back of the TV deal, and a higher interest maybe.
Sang tells me I've got a role to do with Mark. Who knows? And as for, he has clarified the reason why he wasn't. It's all scrolled up. Basically, he didn't go to the West Ham game because he was elsewhere. He actually took my nephew to Old Trafford because the men were playing. There we go. We had a clash that day. Karen mentioned that it's scrolled up now that she'd love to go to a game. Obviously, she's on the East Coast, so that's a heck of a journey. That's a heck of a commute, Shane. You think yours from the Midlands is bad, but yeah. If anybody can get to a game, Mark said he's got a reminder to renew all season tickets. He just wants to say that to remind him to show off. And in terms of in terms of actually going to a football match, he'd go and watch Tiddlywinks if he could. At that point, he's on his own. But I definitely think we are at a point now, I don't know about you guys, but whenever, whatever, we're going. Whatever the game, we're going to it. Fiona actually makes a good point about season tickets and fans. Signings might have an impact. Jake, quick question then. I know you are a regular, you are a season ticket holder, and Jake, there is no element of me winding you up, even though I realise that this probably sounds like I am. If there was one player that United would sign that would definitely make you do away trips, there you go. Who would it be?
Roger Walker.
No, genuinely, I don't want the answer to be Roger Walker, Simone McGill, Rachel Rowe. Genuinely, you could have a world star, okay? And actually, question for you all. If United could sign one player that would get you to a game, no, Mark, we're not saying Claudia Walker.
I feel there's something I need to clarify here. Claudia Walker is out of my fantasy team now. My love for her is in the past. I've moved on, okay? That's that. It's done. We're done.
Couple of suggestions. What about that one, Jake?
What
about Alex Morgan?
We need Alex Morgan. I mean, look at what she did at the Spurs. She just she was the greatest addition to the USL ever.
Mark, you're a sombrero wearing donkey riding Tiddlywink fan. And if anybody can say that quickly 5 times, you can have a round of applause. Remember, Jake, whoever you go for, you can't have their name on a shirt.
Oh, of course.
And Mark's there another suggestion, Alicia Lehman. Genuinely, and I am actually interested in this because using Tobin and Kristen as kind of examples, there probably would have been people who, if we'd have been able to go to games, would have gone to watch them. So who would it be for you? I know we're going anyway. I know we can't wait to go. But is there anybody in world football that you say, I am making an effort to go to a game, I'm skiving off work, anything like that, that's what I'm doing. Go on, Jake.
I'm going to surprise a few people here. It's not necessarily a player I absolutely love, but a player with such a name and such impact that I think that I would definitely pay to see her, and I think a lot of other people would too. Martha.
Well, she's got a mate at the club, so that could work. Mark's put his genuine suggestion in, and half because he wants her to come to the club, and half because actually then he can get the shirt for her. The only thing is, she tends to wear number 6, if I'm not mistaken. And that's not Mark's favourite number. But Sam asked the question, Jake, I'll ask you the same question shortly. Hypothetically, if Beth England was available, would you make a move for her? I think we'd be daft not to, personally. Shane?
Yeah. I mean, look, goal scorer and clinical, and arguably a bit more clinical than what we've been putting on this season. So if you could guarantee getting a player like that, why would you pass the opportunity off?
Absolutely. Jake, Beth England, yes or no?
100%. She's clinical. She scores goals and she doesn't start every game for Chelsea, which is surprising. But yeah, 100% get her through the door.
Shane, the question to you then. One player in world football. Who would it be?
Well, Mark's stolen what would probably be my original answer.
Alicia Lehman.
No, Amandine Henry. Since we started, I've been calling for Amandine Henry. No, if I had to go with a second choice off that, I'd actually go for Mappy Leon, who's at Barcelona.
Okay. All right. John Fry saying he just wants to go and watch Amy T play live. Right now, we all just want to go and watch Amy T play live. Sang seems to think that Hannah Blundell might be available from Chelsea. Well, all I can say is if we did take her, hope we'd play her a little bit more than the other player we've taken from Chelsea. Yeah, for me, player I want to see in a United shirt next season that will get me out of my seat is Tobin Heath. Oh yeah, hang on. I actually think this is realistic now, though. I think this deal changes things, and it changes the exposure. And these players are canny. They know how much exposure they will get on social media. Jake, we laugh about Alicia Lehman, but there's a girl who knows how to maximize her social media. If you've got a higher profile playing in this country, there is every chance other people will look at that and go, I'm going to have myself a bit of that. Sang, all joking aside, we need a number 9. We've probably got at least 1 or 2. They just can't stay fit. A world-class number 9. I think we'd all love the opportunity to see what Alessia Russo can do fit for a consistent run at this stage. That would be my choice. Do you think we need to bring in, following on from that, Shane, do we need to bring in a number 9, or have we already got them at the club?
I think you said it. We've got them. I mean, there might not be. Let's put Tobin and Kristen aside. That we haven't got ones that would fall into the world-class bracket right now, but they've certainly got the potential to be in the future. And that said, that, like I said, it's the injuries that plague us. Leslie had 5 games. And it felt longer than that, if I'm being honest. It felt like she was playing a lot longer than 5 games. I'm sure I read 5 games. I could be talking complete and utter rubbish, but
that actually feels, now you say it.
She didn't have that long in the grand scheme of things. Maybe it was 5 starts and there was a few sub appearances in the mix. I'll have to check, but yeah, she wasn't actually. Hadn't been playing for an awful lot of time when she got the injury. I mean, you think it was an international break, I think, that she pulled out of an England camp when she got the injury. So it was obviously before Christmas. So it may have been sort of November-ish sort of time. But, we've not really seen everything she can do. If it was 5 games, and she was just warming up. And then her season has just been absolutely thrown under a bus. So we're probably not going to see the real ability of Leslie until next season, if we're being honest.
Yeah. I'll ask you the same question in a moment, Jake. Karen is optimistic. She thinks we will get Preston Heath for another year. And I think in terms of what we saw from Tobin Heath, we'd all jump at that. We've not yet seen the best of Kristen Press. But we also know she's a world-class player. And if there is an option to keep her at the club, I think we'd all take that as well. And look, at this stage, the opportunity to just go and watch them live would be massive, I think. John says we definitely need a goal scorer. We need a striker for depth, unless there's a Dev that can step up. The Dev that's leading the scoring charts at the moment goes by a very familiar name for Manchester United. Conor Solskjaer's leading the way at the moment. Sang, we'll come on to that question in a moment. Jake, do we need a number 9?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we talk about Russo and how the impact and the potential that she's got, but I feel like if we have another one, then if Russo gets injured, or if this other new one that we're bringing in gets injured, we've got one there. The problem is, as soon as Russo went, we're like, right, what now? So I feel like if you've got a second natural-born goal scorer, then at least you've got someone to fall back on. Or, in a perfect world, playing in both.
John Neville says, it would be tragic if Heath and Press left before anyone got to watch them live. Absolutely. Yes. Fiona says, even if they only stay for half a season. Anything right now. Anything. Getting a little bit desperate there. Sang asks the question. Never mind who we're bringing in. Who do we think will leave or be let go of? Just going to leave that one to ponder. I guess that brings in the issue of, if we finish 4th as opposed to 3rd, does that change the plans? And we have no idea the communication, the conversations that have been going on in the background for the last few weeks, couple of months maybe, that we know these deals start early. And we also know that Casey was very honest and said she didn't get to do the deal she wanted last summer because of COVID. So, on this one, we're not going to slate anybody. We're not going to say get rid of this person, get them out of our club. That's for other people to do. But I think we can identify that there are players who, for us to be challenging for Champions League, would perhaps be squad players at best. And it's whether those players want to stay as a squad player or they want to go and get first team matches. We talk about this on some Sundays, actually, Shane, Ebony Salmon. And we talk about the fact that she's doing well at Bristol now because she's playing regularly. I genuinely don't believe she'd have got the game time for us, and therefore her development wouldn't be where it is right now. And she wasn't prepared to keep going out on loan. So maybe we took her too soon. I don't know. Fiona makes the point. These last games are a chance for players to show why they deserve another contract. We have got players that are on the cusp. We have got players who are fighting for new contracts. This is their shop window. Okay, I'm not asking you to name. Sang, sorry, somebody else can do that. That's not. But we also know who signed new contracts. We are expecting some more announcements of new contracts because I think that's happening. Sang makes a great point here. What made Sir Alex great? He had the gumption, love that word, to get rid of top names to move forward. And even when we'd won the league, he brought in more strength. He was saying to people, your position isn't safe here. He brought somebody in and he kept people going. And actually, at the beginning of the season, this is one thing we were saying, that we had competition for each place. And maybe that was the great change at the beginning of the season. Once the injuries started hitting, there wasn't the pressure on players anymore. Maybe. Jake, incomings, outgoings, in terms of numbers, do you think the squad, yes, there's a quality issue. We need to improve quality year on year. Everybody will want to do that. But numbers, I'm thinking, did this season show that actually we just need a bigger squad? Or are we going to do an Arsenal, going to do a Jose Mourinho, small squad?
I don't think there's anything wrong with the squad at the moment in terms of numbers. It's just been hit by this almost unprecedented injury crisis. It's not many teams in the league, if any, have to deal with so many injuries all coming at once or one after the other. It's a strange one because I feel like if we bring in more players, they're just going to be there to sit on the bench and not play, and then it's a waste of their time. It's a waste of our time, quite frankly. But you don't obviously risk a situation like this. However, saying that, we've had a lot of players out. Our quality's dipped slightly, but we're still managing. We're still picking up points in some games. But yeah, it's just about keeping fit. I think it's more fitness than numbers.
Yeah, good point, actually. John Fry says 4 or 5 out, 6 or 8 in. Okay. We definitely need a larger squad. Fiona agrees with John Sang. We need more in than out. And so I've not mentioned anything tonight, Sam. We've set records in the injury department. Shane, my hesitation in terms of, and I'm John, I'm just going to put your message up because of numbers. And I think most people would agree it seems to be most clubs 4 or 5 in, 4 or 5 out. Is there always the risk, though, you bring that many in, that actually you unsettle the team, the ethos and the atmosphere and just that togetherness that we see Casey seems to have in that team?
You do risk it, but I suppose there's 2 angles to consider as well. One angle is where we're running with the idea that no one's safe in their position. If you've got 1 or 2 or 3 for each position, or for some positions, the idea is that you make sure you're on top form, even constantly, to make sure you're getting picked. Because if you're not, then you're getting dropped, and the people that are showing their worth are going to get picked. So that's one angle to consider. The other is Casey's quite meticulous with who she picks. She will not bring someone in for the sake of bringing them in, and she's been quite open about this. They have to fit the ethos that she's instilled in these players. She knows, or has a very good feeling, I suppose is the way to put it, that when she's bringing someone in, they're going to fit and integrate with that squad and the mentality and the team, ethos that she's built there. I mean, hey, first season, she brought 21 players in, completely fresh. And I was amazed at how quickly they gelled as a team. Yes, and we did have it easier being in the Championship with some of the players that we brought in being the level they were, but still to get them all looking like a team that's been playing for a year in that short space of time, it was incredible. So she's got a track record with that, but like I said, she has admitted she will not just bring someone in for the sake of it. They've got to fit what's already there, and she'll do her homework on that. I suppose the final point you've got to consider as well is the youth. We're into our third season now, and the last two we have seen a couple of dev players, come up on the bench. Rebecca May came on for a few minutes. Carrie Jones came on the other week. So we're still yet to see someone fully make that transition and be promoted from the youth setup into the first team.
And they've also their season disrupted. So whether that's just...
Of course, yeah. So there's development blockers that have happened and stuff like that. So, squad size might organically get bigger by promotion of the youth team.
Okay.
Without having to actually go out and buy and plug in.
Talking about the number we could bring in, there is the risk that it's too many, even though, Shane, you remind me, Casey brought in 21 and managed to make that work. Coach Stoney seems to be doing a great job at keeping the team together. John Fry, we brought in 6 last summer, absolutely. Competition is a must. I just think that was one of the biggest impacts we had at the beginning of the season. With regards to team building, hopefully next season they can do the team building that Casey loves, such as the sumo wrestling. Casey's got
a job.
It wasn't just like once a month they have these team building days where they go and do the most ridiculous things, and it seems to work. And I don't think they've been able to do the things that they would.
Who could ever forget Glenn Harris's dancing?
It's Millie with the spider for me. That always gets me. Always, I just find that a bit okay, slightly uncomfortable watching it, but that's something that's not been as easy to do in the last sort of 12 months. Got a few more minutes left. I don't want to completely ignore Saturday. It is still a big game. It is, and we need to win it. And actually, I want the team and the players who do play to make their memories. If you're gonna score a worldie, or if you're gonna score a hat trick and get somebody a 20 quid payout, do it at Old Trafford. That's my thinking. If you're going, you can go and score a worldie in training. You can go and score a worldie at some rubbishy ground. To do it at Old Trafford, I don't care whether you're a United fan or not. That's got to mean something. I'm not going to ask you your teams, because whenever I do that, that seems to have an impact on availability. So, is there anybody though that you're looking? Oh, okay. John's gone for score prediction. Do you know what? I'd love to see it, because we need something like that as well. Sam says it. Each game is massive now. Jake, anything you're looking forward to seeing? Any player in particular you're looking forward to seeing? I know you're a big fan, or you like the fact that Carrie Jones is coming through, having seen her for the national team before club team. Anybody you're hoping to see on Saturday?
Yeah, I think I want to see Hayley Ladd starting. I think that's the main thing for me. I know West Ham aren't going to come and attack us constantly, but just having that stability in midfield and just having someone who's really comfortable at the back, cool head on, and can go forward as well. And also, it's no secret that I absolutely adore Hayley Ladd, so there's a bit of that creeping in as well. But yeah, also just I'm thinking up front. Again, it depends who's fit. I don't want to say all names, but maybe give Jess Sigsworth a bit of a run. Don't know if give her a full game, just enough time to bully the defence a bit.
Jake, I'm really sorry for getting you talking there. You've missed a goal for Wales. Sorry.
Just did it.
Yeah.
Just did it.
I do feel like I've really taken advantage of Jake's generosity this evening, so my apologies. John Fry, in answer to his 10-0 prediction, I'm going to be right one day. I hope it's Saturday. I really hope it's Saturday. The only thing is, it would annoy me all the more that we weren't there. It's hard enough missing games. It's a little bit harder missing Old Trafford, because for me, it's not just missing the team play. It's missing an opportunity to go and watch a game at Old Trafford. John also says he wants to see Maria play at centre-back. Fiona says the same. She's hoping to see Maria. Shane, again, not asking. Oh, who am I up against on Lineup League this week, by the way?
I'm not sure. I'll double check it.
Yeah, got a feeling it's you. Got a feeling it's you,
Yeah,
so won't be winning that one, will I? Yeah.
Well, we'll have to see, won't we?
Okay, we all know you put your team in afterwards. Anyway, so I'm not going to ask you for your team or your prediction. What are you hoping to see on Saturday?
I'll wait until I'm told the team, and then.
Yes. Yes. Oh, won't be a moment. Good evening, Namrata. What are you hoping to see on Saturday?
I want to see us control the game. I think it seemed like against Arsenal, for all the possession we had, we were never actually in control. We did what Arsenal wanted us to do, was my opinion on it. Old Trafford's a bigger pitch than we're used to, but likely it's also a bigger pitch than West Ham are going to be used to. I think the likes of Jackie and Hayley, even, I hope, I'm with Jake, I hope Hayley starts because we have missed her. But likes of Jackie, Jess, that they could thrive in that environment. Even if you take out the fact that it is Old Trafford, just that pitch, that Jackie she'll have a field day. And Jess with all the space to run into. I mean, it's a shame with the injuries we've got, because someone like Leah, Tobin, that Leslie as well, that, it would have been such an opportunity for them, and to see them on that pitch, it would have been amazing. But, when you think about what's worked for us this season, Hayley and Jackie have been, the engine room, I suppose, people who describe it that way, that they've been the key to a lot of what we've done. And Hayley's got the most assists for us this season. So, when we need chances to come around, get your top assister on there.
And that might be more of a statement about who's been fit, because I'd certainly expect both Tobin Heath and Leah Galton to have had more assists had they still been able to play games. Okay, Namrata says it's been a while. It has, and it's great to have you with us, albeit very briefly, I'm afraid. Aoife asks Russo, will we see it before the season ends? We've not been categorically told that her season is over, but she's had a setback, is what Casey said. So it's going to be touch and go, I think. Fiona's decided she knows what we're going to see on Saturday. Maybe that's what it's been waiting for. Maybe Jackie's been saying all this time, I'll wait till I'm on the big stage. I'll wait till I'm at Old Trafford. The one thing I think that comes out of this is that, all being well, next season, when we all renew, when we all get our season tickets, the women will play a game at Old Trafford next season. I think that now becomes an obvious, unfortunately. Namrata Vlatko, the US national team coach, hinted that Tobin will play the last few games. Yeah, his comment was something along the lines of, or something around, he's pleased that she'll have a few games for her club team. We're pleased she'll have a few games for her club team. We're just going to regret the fact that we're not there. John Neville, he'll scream the house down if Jackie scores at Old Trafford. I think people will scream loudly enough that they'll be able to hear it at Old Trafford, no matter where they are. So, yeah, definitely. I think we'd all love to see that one. Yeah, that's my sense anyway, that if they're playing at Old Trafford this year, that becomes something that will stay till next year. Okay, we're coming up to time, so I won't keep you any longer. There was a thought in my head I was going to say something and it's gone, so I'll save it for another time. Or I'll save it for our wonderful watch-along at the sprightly hour of 11:30. Just very quickly, that's what it was. There's an email that's gone out today to all members about season ticket renewals. So in case anybody who watches does have a season ticket or is interested in getting a season ticket for next season, there is information on that. It directs you to the club information. And I think we are all of the opinion that, yeah, playing at Old Trafford's one thing. We want to sell out Lee. If anybody can get themselves to a game next season or anytime, please do so. Jonathan, good evening. Yeah, Karen, she's going to see us bright and early on Saturday. So, yeah, but we'll try and be slightly more awake for you. Jake, how are Wales going on? Very quickly.
Just watching it out the corner of my eye. Still 1-0 up. Belgium all over. Oh, yeah, no, but it could be a part of the bus game now for Wales, but that's that. Good luck to him. Jake
is wasted not doing match reports. Jake should be doing match reports for some network. We have to say it. Final thought, Jake. Looking forward to Saturday. Just going to ignore the ground.
Absolutely. Obviously, the stadium. Let's not think too much about that. I just hope that the players don't let the occasion take over. You know, they've got a game to play. They've got a game to win. It is very much a winnable game, and yeah, just don't let the stadium get in the way of that.
Yeah, I would imagine the one advantage we would have is that the players at some point this week will have had the opportunity to go to Old Trafford, and whether it's just have a wander around the dressing rooms, maybe have a kickabout on the pitch. So at least our players should be a little bit more used to it. Shane, thoughts?
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. You know, it would be nice to see him out there. As we said, you know, it's a shame we can't physically be there, but you know, it is what it is. It's a product of the circumstance at the moment, and clearly it was the right time for Casey to, you know, say, yeah, let's go and do it. So, you know, we'll make of it what we can, and we'll hopefully be able to enjoy a positive result.
Fingers crossed. Shane, Jake, thank you both very much for joining me this evening. I feel like we've gone around the houses, discussed loads of things, and we didn't really pay too much attention to Arsenal, which was good. To everybody who's been watching, left comments, thank you very much for joining us. Mark's back next week. I don't know who's joining him. He will obviously be reviewing the West Ham game. He'll also be talking about another international break, because who doesn't love those, hey, Jake? Yeah, everybody take care, look after yourselves, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers. Good night.